I never saw it coming. 10 years of loyalty, hard work, and endless sacrifices wiped away with a single phone call. "We're letting you go." That's all he said. No warning, no chance to explain, no mercy. Just those cold words, like a knife twisting inside my chest. For a decade, I gave everything to that company. I believed in him, the man I trusted as a boss, a mentor, and somehow, even a friend. I stayed late nights, worked weekends, carried the weight of his failing projects, and celebrated every success like it was my own. I thought loyalty meant something. I thought I mattered. But apparently, I was wrong. The day I was fired wasn't just the end of a job. It was the beginning of a war I didn't ask for but was ready to fight. He didn't see the fire he ignited in me. Instead of breaking me, his betrayal became my fuel. That night, sitting alone in my tiny apartment, the weight of rejection crushing me, I made a decision that would change everything. I wouldn't beg for my job back. I wouldn't crawl or cry. I would build my own empire, a rival brand that would make his company obsolete. I would become the nightmare he never saw coming. And it all started with a secret he thought was buried deep enough to stay hidden forever. I remember the exact moment I discovered it. I was packing up my desk, trying to make sense of the chaos swirling inside me, when a file fell out of a locked drawer. Curiosity overpowered me. I opened it. Inside were documents, emails, proof that he had been stealing from the company, lying to the board, and blaming me when things went wrong. I felt the world tilt beneath me. Everything I thought I knew about him, about our work, about my sacrifices, shattered in an instant. Not only had he betrayed me, but he had also betrayed everyone who trusted him. I wanted to scream, to run, to hide, but deep down, something stronger took over, a fierce determination to fight back. That's when I started planning. Every night, I studied his mistakes, his weaknesses, the gaps in his business. I gathered allies, people he had pushed away, underestimated, or betrayed like me. Together, we began building something new, something better. And while he thought he had won by firing me, little did he know he had unleashed his own downfall. This is not just a story about losing a job. It's about betrayal, heartbreak, and revenge. It's about standing up when the world tells you to fall. It's about rising from the ashes, stronger, smarter, and more unstoppable than ever. Because sometimes, the person you trusted the most is the one who cuts the deepest, but that doesn't mean you have to stay down. For 10 years, I was the backbone of the company, the person everyone trusted to get things done. My name is Ayesha, and for as long as I can remember, I've been a fighter. Growing up in a small town, I learned early that nothing comes easy. Every opportunity I got was because I worked harder than anyone else, stayed later, and refused to give up. When I first met Salman, the CEO, it felt like fate. He was charming, ambitious, and had a vision that pulled me in instantly. From the very beginning, he treated me like more than just an employee. I was his right hand, his confidant, and sometimes the only person who could challenge him and get away with it. Our relationship was more than professional. It was built on mutual respect, trust, and what I believed was a genuine friendship. In the early days, we were unstoppable. The company grew fast, and so did our bond. Salman always said I was his secret weapon, the one who kept everything running smoothly behind the scenes. I believed that, and I gave him my best every day. Outside work, my life was quieter but full of meaning. My husband, Farhan, was my anchor. We met in college, fell in love, and built a simple, happy life together. He knew how demanding my job was, but he never complained. He was proud of me, even when I barely had time for us. His support was my sanctuary when work got overwhelming. Then there was my best friend, Zoya. We had grown up together, sharing secrets, dreams, and heartbreaks. Zoya was my sister from another mother, fierce, loyal, and always ready to stand by me no matter what. She was the one I could call in the middle of the night when everything fell apart. Our friendship was unbreakable, or so I thought. But beneath the surface of all these relationships, things were quietly shifting. Small cracks appeared where I didn't expect them. Salman started becoming distant, his smiles more forced, his words less honest. Farhan seemed distracted, caught up in a world I didn't know. And Zoya, well, Zoya's loyalty would soon be tested in ways I never imagined. Through it all, I kept my head down and worked harder. I convinced myself that if I just gave more, stayed stronger, and trusted more, everything would be fine. I was wrong. Looking back, I realize now how blind I was to the signs, the hushed conversations, the late-night texts, the moments I wasn't invited into. But at the time, all I saw was the job I loved and the people I trusted. This is my story of loyalty and betrayal, of love and heartbreak, and the strength I found when everything I believed in came crashing down. It started with a gnawing unease that crept in quietly, but wouldn't let me go. I couldn't shake it, no matter how hard I tried. Something was wrong. Something was changing. I remember the exact evening it hit me. I was working late, as usual, when I noticed Salman's phone light up across the room. He was sitting at his desk, focused, but the sudden buzz pulled my attention. A message popped up, just a glimpse, a few words I wasn't meant to see. We need to talk. Tonight. Alone. My heart clenched. Who was this? What was so urgent that he had to meet in secret? I told myself to stay calm, to not jump to conclusions. After all, I was his trusted right hand. Surely he wouldn't hide something from me. Or would he? Over the next few days, Salman's behavior shifted. He became distant, distracted. Meetings he once insisted I attend suddenly excluded me. Calls came in at odd hours, his voice tense and hushed. Every time I tried to ask, he brushed me off with vague reassurances. One evening, curiosity and dread finally pushed me beyond my limits. I followed him after work, keeping a careful distance. He drove to a quiet cafe on the edge of town, parked, and slipped inside. I waited outside, heart racing, every shadow making me flinch. Minutes later, I saw him through the window, but he wasn't alone. She was sitting across from him, a woman I didn't know, but whose smile felt like a knife twisting in my gut. They talked closely, leaned in, their heads almost touching. There was an ease between them, a warmth I hadn't seen from Salman in months. I wanted to turn and run, to forget what I saw. But something inside me screamed to keep watching. That night, I lay awake, replaying the scene over and over. Who was she? Why was Salman hiding her? And why did it feel like everything I trusted was crumbling? The next day, I confronted him carefully, cautiously, hoping for an explanation that would calm the storm inside me. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "It's nothing you need to worry about," he said, too quick to dismiss. But I wasn't convinced. Not anymore. Weeks passed, and the distance between us grew. I noticed files disappearing from the company server, strange transactions in the accounts, and whispered rumors in the halls. Rumors that someone was sabotaging the business from the inside. And then came the final blow. I was called into a meeting I wasn't expecting. The board had decided to let me go. Fired. Without reason, without warning. As I packed my things, disbelief and anger churned inside me. But beneath it all was a deeper pain, the betrayal of someone I had trusted like family. I left that office with my head held high, but my heart shattered. What had I missed? How deep did the betrayal go? And most terrifying of all, what was Salman hiding? And how far was he willing to go to protect his secrets? The silence in my apartment was deafening. Every tick of the clock seemed to echo the questions rattling inside my mind. Should I confront him? Or was I just imagining things, letting my paranoia run wild? After all, I didn't have concrete proof. Just fragments, shadows, and a sinking feeling I couldn't shake. I paced back and forth, my thoughts spinning in circles. Maybe I'm overreacting, I told myself. Maybe it's nothing more than a business deal, or a client meeting I wasn't invited to. Salman's always been secretive about some things. But the doubt gnawed at me like acid. Why was he so guarded? Why did his eyes avoid mine? Why did his voice sound strained whenever I tried to ask? I remembered that night at the cafe. The way they leaned in close, their smiles so effortless. It wasn't just business, it was something else. Something I wasn't part of. The thought twisted my chest painfully. I found myself scrolling through my phone, staring at his last messages. We need to talk. Tonight. Alone. The words burned into my mind. Who was she? What was so urgent that he hid it from me? I tried calling Zoya, my best friend, but her line went straight to voicemail. I left a message, my voice trembling more than I wanted to admit. Zoya, something's wrong. I don't know what, but I need you. Hours passed, with no reply. Finally, late that night, the phone rang. It was Zoya. Hey, she said softly. Sigh. I was caught up. What's going on? I don't know where to start, I whispered. Salman's acting is weird. I saw him with someone else, but he won't tell me who. And then I got fired, no explanation. I feel like I'm losing my mind. There was a pause on the other end. Ayesha, maybe it's best to take a step back. You've been working yourself to the bone. Maybe this is just stress. No, I snapped, surprising even myself. This is more. Something's wrong. I can feel it. Zoya sighed. Okay, just don't do anything rash. Promise me. I promised, but inside, the storm was raging. Days blurred into nights as I wrestled with my emotions. Part of me wanted to confront Salman, to demand the truth, to force him to admit whatever he was hiding. But another part was terrified of what I might uncover. What if it's worse than I think? That thought haunted me every time my phone buzzed or his name appeared in my mind. One evening, I caught myself staring at his picture on my phone. I touched the screen as if reaching for him and whispered, "Why did you do this to me?" Tears pricked my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wasn't weak. Not yet. I started questioning everything. Every smile he gave me, every late night, every secret meeting. Had it all been a lie? I kept asking myself, was I just a pawn? A convenient scapegoat? But the more I doubted, the more determined I became. I wasn't going to let him break me. Not without a fight. Just when I thought I had hit rock bottom, the universe had one more cruel twist in store for me. The next morning, unable to shake the nagging suspicion, I decided to follow Salman again. I needed to see the truth with my own eyes. No more shadows, no more half-truths. I had to know how deep this betrayal went. He left the office earlier than usual, and I talked him through the busy streets, careful not to lose him. My heart hammered, a mixture of fear and determination pulsing through my veins. He stopped at a nondescript building on the outskirts of town, a place I'd never seen associated with him before. My pulse quickened as I slipped inside behind him, staying hidden in the shadows. What I saw next stopped my breath. Salman wasn't alone, but it wasn't the woman from the cafe. This was something else entirely. He was meeting with a group of people, strangers to me, hushed voices, exchanging thick envelopes and sealed contracts. The air was thick with secrecy, and the tension was almost tangible. Then, my eyes locked on something even more devastating: a file on the table bearing my name. Documents detailing false accusations, forged evidence, and plans to sabotage my reputation. He wasn't just betraying me, he was destroying me. I felt my world shatter. All those years of loyalty, all the trust, reduced to a calculated plan to bury me. But there was more. Among the papers, I saw financial reports showing that he was funneling company funds into secret accounts, overseas money laundering on a scale I never imagined. The man I had trusted, who I believed was my ally, was a criminal hiding behind a mask of respectability. My hands trembled. I wanted to run, to scream, to tear everything apart. But I stayed silent, absorbing the magnitude of his betrayal. As I slipped out of the building, a cold fury ignited inside me, a fire so fierce it burned away the pain and replaced it with resolve. Salman hadn't just fired me. He had underestimated me. And now I held the power to bring him down. The day I confronted Salman was the hardest day of my life. Every step I took toward his office felt heavier than the last, like walking through quicksand made of years of trust and betrayal. I rehearsed what I would say 100 times, but none of it felt enough. When I finally stood in front of his glass office door, I hesitated. His voice called me in before I could knock, calm and unreadable. "Sit down, Ayesha," he said, the usual warmth in his tone replaced by something colder, sharper. I took a deep breath and met his eyes I once saw as honest, now filled with guarded calculation. "I know everything," I said, my voice steady but charged. "The lies, the money, the files with my name on them. Why? Why would you do this to me?" For a moment, he said nothing. Then, almost casually, he leaned back, a bitter smile curling his lips. "You really thought I cared about you? You were useful, nothing more. But when you started asking too many questions, when you became a liability, I had to act." His words hit me like a blow to the gut. The man I had trusted, admired, even cared for, had been using me all along. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced myself to keep going. "Do you know what you've destroyed? My career, my reputation, my life?" He shrugged. "Business is business, Ayesha. It's survival." Then, just as I thought the conversation couldn't get worse, he added something that shattered me completely. "There's something else," he said, his voice low, almost amused. "Someone else you should know about. Someone closer than you think. My heart stopped. Before I could ask, the door opened behind me. Zoya stepped in, her eyes wide and guilty. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I had no choice. I stared at her, disbelief and betrayal crashing over me like a tidal wave. My best friend, the one person I trusted above all, was part of this nightmare. "Why?" I managed to say. "Why would you do this?" She looked away, tears spilling down her cheeks. "It wasn't supposed to be like this, but he threatened Farhan. I had to protect him." I felt the room spin. Farhan, my husband. What had he gotten himself into? Everything I thought I knew about my life was unraveling faster than I could catch it. Salman's smile grew crueler. "You see, Ayesha, you're not the only one who's been betrayed." That moment, everything inside me broke, but from those broken pieces, a new resolve was born. I wasn't going to let him win. Not this time. I stood, voice steady but fierce. "You're going to pay for this. All of it." And with that, I walked out, leaving behind the ruins of a life built on lies, ready to fight for my future. After that confrontation, everything changed. I wasn't the same woman who had walked into Salman's office that day. The betrayal had cut deep, but it also ignited a fire inside me that refused to be extinguished. I took the evidence I had gathered, the forged documents, the financial records, the recordings of secret meetings, and handed everything to the authorities. Watching Salman's empire begin to crumble was a bittersweet victory. It didn't erase the pain, but it felt like justice. Farhan and I faced our own battle. The threats against him had been real, and those shadows had kept us both silent longer than we should have. But once the truth was out, we vowed to rebuild, brick by brick, the life that deceit had tried to destroy. Zoya disappeared from my life, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and shattered friendship. Part of me wanted to hate her forever, but deep down, I knew that betrayal often comes from fear and desperation, a lesson I would never forget. With my name cleared and my spirit unbroken, I did something unexpected. I launched my own brand, a rival company, born from everything Salman had tried to destroy. It was a gamble, a challenge, but also a symbol of my resilience. The first product launch was a quiet, personal victory. As the orders came in, so did messages of support from people who believed in me. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. But even in moments of triumph, a shadow lingered. One evening, as I sat alone in my new office, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A message popped up. "You won this battle, but the war isn't over. Watch your back." I stared at the screen, my breath catching. The past wasn't finished with me yet. Yet, as the sun set behind the city skyline, I smiled. I was ready. No matter what came next, I wouldn't be broken again. Sometimes, the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us deepest. But sometimes, from that pain, we find a strength we never knew we had. And this was just the beginning.